So then I did a shorter meditation just to see what would happen. I didn't want to spend another 20 minutes. And I had my eyes closed. So this time I was focusing more on the muse, having my eyes closed and being calm. And then I had the coherence app on as well, but I wasn't looking to see if I was staying in coherence. So I didn't stay in coherence as much, but my brain was in the calm state throughout the muse meditation, but I didn't stay in coherence as much. And I have all the graphs for these, so I'll show that. What was interesting though is subjectively, I think that I felt better when following the breathing incoherence, that sounds like incoherence, breathing coherently, I felt euphoria and I felt bliss and I felt nothing. And then when I switched and I ignored the coherent breathing and I closed my eyes, which is ignoring the coherent breathing indicator, and I was doing the muse calm, like their algorithm, be calm, and however that works, I feel like it's more of a forced calmness. Like perhaps it's not natural to stay that calm all the time. It seems more natural to be aware and calm, aware and then back to calmness, and aware and back to calmness. And that brain cycle graph of that, during that, even though it shows I was more active than I have been in any other of the muse meditations, because I wasn't following it by closing my eyes and doing all the relaxing. Of course, the brain's going to be more calm when we close our eyes, but that isn't practical in daily life. We're not going to be closing our eyes. But perhaps seeing this active and then going calm, that could be good. I don't know. It's not good according to the Muse app because it shows that I only had 19% calm. But subjectively, I felt a lot more energy and bliss doing the coherent breathing and ignoring the Muse thing. So then the next time I did pay attention to the muse, it shows my brain more calm. I earned way more birds. I had way less recoveries because my brain wasn't going into the active state. I don't think the active state is a problem per se. It is perhaps what is our brain being active on? My brain was active on coherence breathing, but when it's active and agitated all the time by the noise of the world, then perhaps that isn't good. And it wasn't like active all the time. It was going like this. And I'll show those pictures. And it's interesting to note the algorithm of Muse and what it's trying to get us to do. Because meditation, in terms of trying to remain calm all the time, isn't really practical. It can be helpful. I'm not saying it's not helpful. I'm just saying subjectively, the coherence breathing felt better. And then the other thing that was really interesting for me was I was doing the coherence breathing, and I haven't done it since, I think I might have done it once in early August and once in early July, or it might have been once in early July and once in June. And I looked at those graphs and I wasn't able to stay in coherence the whole time. And it took me a bit longer to get into coherence. And what I noticed this time, right away, I got into coherence in the excellent range. And I was able to stay there the whole time. My heart didn't go out of coherence. And I remember before, it always does, and it's challenging to keep it. And I actually feel like the micronutrients might be helping with that. I have the proper minerals and vitamins, and that is what helps with the electricity and everything to keep the heart going in coherence. So something that would be interesting is that if somebody starts on micronutrients, to get the chest strap and the coherence app, and then do breathing coherence and see how it gets better over time with taking the micronutrients and taking less medications. Maybe if I'd kept up with the breathing coherence, I would have seen that somewhat. But it's hard to say if it's the practice of the coherence breathing that makes it better or it's the micronutrients. For me, I haven't been practicing coherence breathing at all. And then all of a sudden I do it again and it was super easy. And I use it on the hard mode. I could change it to, I think there's one more challenging mode that makes it so one has to stay even more in coherence to get the excellent rating. And I will do a video of this setup using a video camera and then showing my two phones at some point. Because I feel like these are really metrics and biofeedback and technology that we can use. If I'm able to breathe in coherence like that, then something is good, something's going right. And I wasn't able to do that ever when I was on the medications, and now I'm not on the medications and I'm able to breathe in coherence. And then if I was to watch those TED Talks about the coherence breathing that originally got me onto this, I would learn that that means that the heart is sending the right electrical nutrition and information to the brain when one is breathing in coherence. And if I'm able to do that better on micronutrients, and a lot of us have heart stress and heart racing and things when we're in something like a psychosis or anxiety, well, maybe the heart needs some nutrients so it's not freaking out. And if we learn to coherence breathe, these are physiological things, and that's something the TED Talks do talk about, is correcting the physiology. So by correcting the physiology, life unfolds in a different way, and that's what I'm doing with the micronutrients, checking things out with the Muse headband. I've been doing this coherence breathing thing, and I haven't been doing it because I haven't felt any stress, really. But I might do it to see if I'm able to maintain more coherence breathing now that I'm not taking the medications. And so for me, I know that it wasn't practicing coherence breathing that all of a sudden made me substantially better. And I'll compare my results from a couple months ago, those few times that I did it, to now. And the last time I was doing it consistently, it was when I was just on my last bit of medication when I was in California. So hopefully I covered all of that. I did take a lot of screenshots, so I will have to do a bunch of editing to put that in here and show it. And I could put it on a blog post too. That's a lot of work. But these are the things that could be more valuable than creating so many words. I'm not sure. I just feel like if the physiology is corrected and the body is paid attention to, then there's a lot less of the hoopla to talk about. And that was something I was thinking about in terms of after complaining what happened to me in April 2016 in the psych ward, how much of that was just extra hoopla that might have been completely unnecessary if I had the proper nutrition in my body. So I feel like if I am able to officially transcend in my life, and of course nothing's ever etched in stone, but if I'm able to go 9 months without a crisis, I can almost say thank you. There would have been not much to complain about had I known about this from the beginning. And I'm probably going to go to that cognitive remediation conference because it talks about how there's so many cognitive deficits and types of cognitive deficits and what can be done about them. And what I don't like is right on the page, and I think I printed something out about this, and so I'll talk about it again. They say cognitive remediation isn't a replacement for medications. The medications help with the psychosis, and the cognitive remediation helps with the cognitive decline resulting from the illness. And that's the part that gets me the most, or part of the most, is that they attribute all the cognitive decline to the worsening of the illness, when nearly 100% of people that they study that have cognitive declines are on medications. It's not like they have this control group of half the people not on any meds for a long period of time and seeing if they have any type of cognitive decline. That would be the thing to do a study on, is follow, or it could even be done now because there's people who might have been taking micronutrients for 10 years. Compare how people are doing who've been taking micronutrients only for 10 years, who have a label of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and if they have cognitive decline versus people who have been taking antipsychotics for 10 years, and if they have cognitive decline, and compare that. And I'm saying this to myself because I don't have time to do all these studies, but for me, my life is my study and my experiment and my design. So this is an experimental design of my life. And then there's another interesting conference coming up about psychosis in November. So one will be cognitive remediation and them talking about how we're cognitively declining and doing some fancy app-based exercises maybe to get some of that cognition back. And the other one is really interesting. It's talking about understanding these other experiences, how they're related to trauma, engaging with so-called psychosis and not thinking, well, there's no way to understand it, so there's no point in engaging it. It's really fascinating. It's like one poll with the cognitive remediation and then another poll. The conference is on CBT and psychosis, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for psychosis, but the points they mention in the outline of the workshop are really fascinating to me because they resonate with me subjectively, and they're a lot about what I've been talking about with myself, so it'll be interesting to hear clinicians talking about it in these ways. So I feel like I'm not going to say I want to stop talking about mental health because I have said that a million times. But I want to continue to investigate to see what's being said that I resonate with participating with, so that as I'm more firmly rooted in taking micronutrients, I'll know where I can share, where I can speak up, or I may end up leaving in my camper van and at that point not engaging with it anymore. But I want to be able to see if I can remove the financial barrier for people, see what they're saying about all this cognitive decline, because that's the saddest part. What happens to so many of us as a result of the medications, and again, it's passed off as worsening of our mental illness, just like how it happened to me in the psych ward last year, where I got so much worse and they would just think, oh, it's worsening of her illness, but it was the medication. And as soon as I was off that medication, I was back to myself, and I knew better. So I'm feeling like if I was on that medication, high dose antipsychotics daily, of course I'd have a decline in cognition, but it wouldn't be worsening of my mental illness, because I've had this label for 6 years and I have no cognitive decline, and I have never been on daily antipsychotics. I've been on PRN antipsychotics for a total of maybe 90 days, and it was only 2 weeks worth at a time on 2 occasions, but then when I was in California, I did end up taking them for a longer period and tapering off them in 1/8 reductions so that my body could slowly adapt to having it out of my system. Otherwise, I probably would have only been on them for a total of about 45 days in the 6 years. So I want to collect some evidence about this whole hoopla that they're saying that the cognitive declines are from our mental illness and the medications help with the psychosis, and then bringing in all this hoopla of cognitive remediation and whatever else to help with the declined cognition that is likely caused from the medications. And then even the conference about understanding trauma related to psychosis and all of that, how much of that conversation could be eliminated by taking micronutrients? And of course, some PTSD stuff could come back up for me, and then I'll be like, oh, I gotta re-engage with this understanding and meaning-making thing. But I feel like lifestyle design keeps me a step ahead of that. I don't know. I feel like we need enough nutrition to deal with the stress of trauma, with the stress of thoughts, with the stress of the past infecting the present. And when we have enough nutrition, we can be present. And even if something challenging arises in consciousness, we have the nutrition to be able to move with it and through it. It can't derail us. And I don't know if that's true. That's part of this experiment of waiting to see if I can go 9 months without a crisis. And it's not like I'm sitting and doing nothing. I've been so busy lately. Today I'm spending the day in the park because I really need it. That is what really helps me to decrease that allostatic load, is being in the silence of nature. And I showed that with the Muse headband. I was sitting in the park and it was so much easier to stay calm being in the park. And I think that's something else the Muse headband can be used for, is seeing where and when and what situations and contexts and scenarios agitate the brain, and we can see that for ourselves. So it could really help in designing a wrap plan. So I'm talking about a lot. I talk about a lot of things that I might not utilize myself. They're ideas. I'm kind of an idea person. I don't have time to design all this and carry it out, or I could do one little group and that would take up most of my time, but I like to talk about these ideas with myself and then design my life and live my daily life and see what parts that I talk about unfold. It might only be 0.1% of what I talk about actually unfolds. But by talking about these things with myself on video, perhaps others who resonate with some of the ideas or maybe even thought of them themselves already can carry them out or design other elements into their life that might be helpful. I have been taking more video clips throughout the day, and I like that. But then when editing, some of them might be a little bit out of order. That doesn't matter because I'm all over the place anyways. And I did find a special message on my jeans this morning. The jeans did fit, but not comfortably enough to wear them all day. I'm about to try these pants on, and there's a special message. I don't know if they'll fit because they're really small, but I'm going to try them on anyway. Live your life.